Welcome to the Depth Perception podcast.
We go in depth about the perceptions and misconceptions of optometry,
which includes the business of optometry,
social issues within optometry,
and life as an optometry student.
Coming straight from Dr. Jasdeep Soni,
Dr. Nadia Afkhami,
Dr. Douglas Akidi,
and Svetlana Nunez. We hope you enjoy this episode.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is a first for me. This is a Podception today. Welcome. I have the Depth Perception podcast on today with myself, Dr. Ryan Corte with Ryan Reflects, and we are gonna do it big because this is the first time I've had 5 people on a physical podcast. So welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, we're gonna be distributing this across the board. You guys are here, so everybody go real quickly across the board. Real quick introductions. And then I'll reintroduce myself. Nadia, we'll start with you.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm Dr. Nadia Afkhami, and I think when have we met before? I think it's been a long time. I think we met at my very first Transitions Academy, which was like in 2018. So yeah, we're gonna go way back. So I'm happy to be here. I'm gonna throw it to our future Dr. Nunez to let her introduce herself.
Okay, my name is Svetlana. By the time you're listening to this, I'm probably Dr. Nunez, and I've recently graduated optometry school. So that's all I have to say.
Heck yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
JD, you want to go?
I will go next. Yes,
okay.
Dr. Jasdeep Soni. I've been practicing for 5 years here in California. I'm very passionate about recruiting optometrists, podcasting, speaking for Alcon, and being involved in the COA. And I loved our group of podcasting here and excited to keep it going with y'all.
What's going on, everybody? I'm Dr. Douglas Akidi. Just met Ryan maybe 15 minutes ago, but so happy to be here, and excuse the loud background. You know, it's a little loud, but, you know, we're having fun.
You remind me of a news reporter. You're like calling in from Channel 9 News in the middle of the traffic square.
This Zoom is killing me. If you guys are watching,
live all the way from Beverly Hills. We are doing it live here today on the podcast, on Ryan's podcast, #@RyanReflects.
Let's
go. It away, Ryan.
Let's go. Listen, you guys are bringing life to me. I was just chatting before we went live, and in OD years, I'm significantly older than everybody. Whether or not I'm significantly older in real life, we can debate. But your podcast has been crushing it. I've been watching from afar, but also tuning in. I like Spotify as my platform. I love that you guys are doing the video pod on Spotify, so keep that going. But SV, I'm going to start with you here because I think we're at a time of year where fourth years are now becoming doctors. And I just want to know, like, straight off the cuff, how does it feel?
I feel relieved to be done with school, right? There's a part of me that feels a little scared because now it's like, okay, going from optometry school to practicing, I'm not doing a residency. So there's some parts of optometry that I'm like 100%, like any urgent care, you can throw that at me because I've done a lot of urgent cares. But if you throw glaucoma at me, it's not that I don't know glaucoma, but maybe like going from monitoring to, okay, let's start treatment, or is this progressing? It's not that I don't know, I just don't have like a lot of experience. So I think those are like 2 really quick examples. So it feels good, but I also feel a little scared. And then now my charts are my own, right? And no one is looking at them. So yeah, I don't know. It's exciting. I'm excited, but I'm also kind of like, oh, this is a weird transition in life. Like, where am I going to go? What am I going to do next? Do I go back to my parents' house? You know, things like that.
You are taking off the training wheels, right? And you're just like, let's do this. Let's ride a 2-wheel bicycle. Let's go all the way around the block. Shoot, let's go, you know, on a trail. Let's go as far as we can go. We're going to pave our own way. JD, you know, as somebody who has been recruiting for practices that are looking to hire doctors, do you hear a lot of this? And what do you hear from doctors that are 1 to 5 years out post-graduation in regards to how they're navigating the unknown of being a new graduate optometrist?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, Ryan. I would say, yeah, a lot of graduates feel this way, right? Like you're on a rotation for 3 months at most, 3 or 4 months, and by the time you're there for a couple months, how comfortable do you really get? And I think that's where it's good to understand SV. Like you're gonna learn on the job. You don't just have to do a residency to pick up skills in the career. Like even us. After practicing 5, 10, 15 years, I still text surgeons, hey, what do you think about this, right? It's not black and white. And that's why it's art, it's a practice. So I guess embrace the uncomfortability, no matter what stage you are, whether you're starting a business or starting your first year in a job, starting a specialty. It is always uncomfortable, but it's just about accepting it and kind of like being excited about it and what it brings. What do you think, Nadia? How's your experience been on that?
Yeah, I think that when you're first and fresh out, you feel scared because now you have to make all the decisions on your own. You can't, there's no one to be like, hey, so what do you think about that? Even though you might not need their help, you still want to like have that pat on the head, I think. And then you kind of get the group chat that you have where you need to like, hey, I need consult, or like, hey, can you just look at this OCT really quick for me, even if you're alone, right? I text Levin all the time like, hey, can I get a consult? And I think that community, even like outside of school, because we have a community in school that's different, I think, for different reasons. And then you have your community as a practicing OD that will like continuously change for you in the landscape of your life. And just kind of being confident and realizing, I think one of the most important things I learned from my preceptor was like, it's called practicing medicine or optometry for a reason. You're practicing, like you don't always know like what to do. Sometimes you do something and you're like, I don't know, I guess we'll see if it works. See you for your follow-up in a couple of days. And then you learn from that and then you do better the next time. And I think just getting used to just being on your own is hard, but I think you'll kill it. All the new grads are, I know we're all in this shoes.
Yeah, I just want to add I like the second part of what you said, Nadi, because although it may feel like you are alone and you're by yourself, you're really not. Now you just embrace your team, the people that you trust in and believe. Like, we got you. People at school who are your friends. You're not alone because you can still just relay back and text your friends and like use Google if you really need to. So yeah, I think that's important.
Yeah, even when I remember JD was doing a little clinical thing. Remember JD when we were like showing me like optos and we were still like learning from each other, like I was like, this is what I would do, this is how I would diagnose. And it's like you're bringing something to the table as a new grad that is so valuable. And I don't think we should devalue new grads being like you're inexperienced, because honestly, like that's probably the smartest I was, like fresh out of school, the most, and you're excited and you want to do all the right things and you want to be thorough. And I think that's actually a value and not like something that should be used against you.
SV, you're gonna rock it. I can tell you that right now. You were gonna do an exceptional job and beyond. And surrounding yourself with these three, just to be able to tap into them, plus all the resources you've had from school, your didactic knowledge as reference is as high as it will be unless you go and you start teaching or speaking all the time, because it's just the way it works, right? Your clinical knowledge, your expertise, your comfort level of treating and managing and taking care of people, well, that's going to grow 10x. But in regards to the nitty gritty details of what you need to know to pass boards, what you need to know straight out of a textbook, you're at the pinnacle right now. So embrace that, embrace the learning curve. I personally think you're kind of in that zone where you can ask as many questions as you want as a new grad. And it doesn't matter if it's good, bad, or ugly, and how it's perceived. It's still, it's an honest question where you're going to learn, you're going to grow. So ask away. And in fact, what are like the top 3 questions on your mind as a new grad coming out? We have varying levels. I've been out since 2012. How long has everybody else been out?
2020 for me.
2022.
23.
All right. I'm definitely the OG. Let's go.
OD.
GOD. I like that.
Well, thank you for the encouragement. It's funny because my questions coming out of school are probably not clinically relevant just yet because I don't have like a case right in front of me. But I always ask JD this question, so he gets it all the time. It's like, how do bonus structures work? And then he's like, well, it depends on which kind of bonus structure. And I'm like, but how do you track? Like, if I work at a private practice, how do I track what prescriptions I give and then who got that prescription and then how that works into production? And then I've heard productions based, is that based off of like total, or is that based off of what insurance, like what you get after insurance, right? So I guess if you want to give your 2 cents on that.
My 2 cents is pretty simple. It really depends. I think JD has a very good point if he said it depends on what the contract reads. So, my biggest advice is if you're going to go into these circumstances and take a job, and I know you're already in debt and I get it, but if you can find some kind of pro bono or low cost attorney, or even run the contract through Chat GPT, some kind of artificial intelligence to help bring it to a level that you can really truly understand, and then take that contract and pepper the individual that you're going to be working with or that you're looking to work for with questions. Because if it says that you're getting bonus off of production and that's all it says, guess what? Nobody knows what that is unless it's defined. What is production? Is that cash plus insurance? Is that under my name? Is that under the practice name? What does that mean? And so I think there's a ton of questions that you can ask just based off of a contract in general. Like, let's talk about non-compete. Let's talk about production. Let's talk about benefits. Let's talk about paid time off. Let's talk about if I want to buy into the practice. Am I buying into a practice that I'm helping build, or am I buying into a practice that we have to appraise on the front end? There are so many questions that you have to ask to feel comfortable. And the biggest thing I will tell you right now is that the odds of your first job being your last job are very slim, right? You may have a first job, you may have ancillary jobs where you pick up some, weekend time or part-time throughout the week, and you're going to learn through all those experiences. But when it comes to the contractual details, utilize the resources that you have, artificial intelligence. And then, I'm a big proponent of trying to find a good attorney that is reasonable, because if you sign a contract that puts you in hot water, you're not going to be happy. And especially if the non-compete kicks you out of the zone you want to practice in for long term, or especially if they tell you're going to bonus X amount of dollars and you're really not coming anywhere near that. Talk is cheap, right? So definitely make sure you have a professional or have good resources to dive into on that front.
Thank you for sharing. And where are you practicing again?
Yeah, I'm in Asheville, North Carolina. So I have a 4-location optometry practice, 2 offices in Asheville, 2 offices in Charlotte. And since I've been doing this for a minute, I've seen my fair share of contracts. I have a team of doctors that work with me. So I've looked at a lot of different structures, and I can tell you the practices that get it right, the ones that want you to succeed, they're going to work with you. JD, tell me a little bit about your thoughts on that, since you've been doing a lot of, I'm sure, reviewing contracts and helping negotiate or helping the employer put together a good package for these doctors that are out and looking for opportunities.
Yeah, I'll expand a lot of some of the thoughts you were saying. I really liked a few of them, if not all of it. So, I guess as we talk about this a lot, and I think the reason I'm so glad you brought it up. I can expand a little bit more here. Let's think about each business and how they make money, because I think that will determine how you can bonus, right? So let's look at a model, like a corporate model. Let's say Lens Crafters, Costco, Target. They make money not necessarily by selling the glasses. They make money by how many exams you're doing, or what is coming in from the exams. So based on that, they're going to want to incentivize you to do more exams or do more specialty care. And so they're going to incentivize you not based on the optical then, right? Because they're not in charge of optical. They're going to incentivize you for the daily bottom line of the production. Let's talk about a private practice, or maybe even MD-OD practice, right? MD-OD practice, the difference is they may be doing cataract surgery, other surgeries. And so there's money coming in from the business from you referring to them. Whereas a private practice might just be based on specialty care, but also they have an optical involved, right? So number one, ask yourself, how's the business making money? To Ryan's point, they should want you to get a piece of the pie, because if you're incentivized, you're going to do more for them, and you're going to put more in your pocket, put more in their pocket, and then everybody wins together, and it makes everybody happier, right? Like, I don't know if anybody has had this where you're just like, wow, like you're working towards a goal and you know it, and the day goes smoother, you feel more motivated. And that's the whole point of bonuses to me, everybody winning and being more motivated. I would say there's so many different models out there, right? Like if you include optical, knowing what the production is and knowing what you produce over the year, over each month is important to know. And I think to Ryan's point, talk is cheap, right? So you want to be like, hey, what if past OD's done here in the past? What do you expect me to do? If this is my first job, do you expect me to do this in the first 3 months, especially if I'm shadowing or learning? And I would probably say no. In your first quarter, first months, don't put that pressure on yourself. Those are just some thoughts that I have quickly. Of course, there are so many models when it comes to percentages. I'm personally on an all commission model, right? So I have no guarantees, but that gives me a higher ceiling, which I love. I've worked with clinics where they give you a little bonus for doing referrals for like dry eye or specialty care. I've worked with clinics who say, hey, this is what you need to hit for the total for your month or for the year, and then you get a percentage of anything after, right? So there's just so many unique models, and I think the key points would be ask those questions about what's realistic, ask how the business is making money, and see what's been done in the past.
JD, I like that you had said, hey, give me a kind of like a case study. Anybody here watch sports where they put the profile up of like player X versus player Y, and they don't show the player, but they show the stats? Well, the reality is, yeah, it's if you look at if they're able to give you by taking the provider's name out, but also like showing you like, hey, this is like a bonus structure that's realistic that I've seen within this model, and this is how they were paid out. That's really nice to see, right? It's more than just information on a page of hoping to hit whatever benchmark, whatever goals, and really it gives you a general concept of what you can be walking home with on top of your salary plus benefits. Nadia and Doug, what about you guys? Any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I'll go first. I think that when you get your first job, you know what to ask for, but you don't know what to ask for. So I think experience goes a long way, because now when I negotiate, I'm like, I need this. I would like this many days PTO. Like, I need this many sick days. Like, I need a 401k. Like, if you're not offering that, I need retirement. Like, I'm working towards something. So I think when you get your first job, it's always important I asked my preceptor that was very close with me, like, hey, can you look over it? Because he was a business owner. And he's like, yeah, this looks pretty standard. Like, if I had questions, I would reach out. JD's a great resource as well. But like anybody that right? People who've had jobs before, like, hey, what should we be asking for? Can you look over this? I had my friend Liebna look over my contracts too, just to be like, hey, what do you think? Because it's nice to get that experience, because again, like, you're not going to know everything at first, and you're not going to know what you want, and you're not going to know how you want to practice. And I think I've learned a lot about like what I need in a contract to make me feel more productive and involved in the company over time. And I think that, like I said, I think my next job is going to be like my own practice eventually, right? But you're not going to know these things until, like, people like to just work commission, or they want to just do weekends, or they want to work part-time, and everyone's different, and everyone's contract's going to be different. And you have to just learn like what's good for you, but also planning for your future, right? Like, if you're trying to save up for something and that's important to you, or if you really want to save for your retirement, like, fight for that. Or if you really want time off, like, you're like, hey, I have to have like 6 days starting, and then I want to accrue like one every month, or whatever it is. Like, you have to ask, because what you bring to the table, you have to like balance it. You're like, hey, I'm a new grad. I know it seems like I'm not, experienced, but also I have all this knowledge. So you tell them why you're worth that. And I think we've talked about that in a past pod, actually. Like, show why you're worth it, and then ask for it, right? So I think just experiencing it and learning it, I think over time you'll get it. And like Ryan said, like, your first job's not going to be your last job, right? Like, you're going to learn from all your mistakes, basically.
What I'll just add to that, I should have went first, because I was going to say, know your worth. And you're saying show your worth. So know your worth in terms of like, don't settle. And especially, here in California, some practices offer less than 6 figures. And that's like no. We went through all this work, all this school, all of this stress to be doctors, to get less than 6 figures. That's kind of crazy. So know your worth, and also just don't settle. Don't settle for the first thing that sounds good. Do your research, and we got you in terms of just being able to look through things, have second, third eyes on it. We're here for you. So know your worth.
You got to know your worth. SV, I'm curious. So everybody here, we all were hitting on a big topic, which is dollars in the bank. And I think that obviously we all want to make a living, but is there additional stress that you feel like you're facing coming out as a 2025 grad about loans, about the tariffs and all the different changes and increase in inflation, all the factors of life? Tell me a little bit about how you feel about that. Because that's something, I mean, graduating in 2012, it was different for me. I mean, my student loan debt is not where I see a lot of these new grads coming out at. And I think the economy and inflation obviously was not where it is today. So I want to hear a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think that's a really great question. So to be honest, so like everyone knows where we're at, and maybe Dr. Corte, you can share where you were at when you graduated. But I think I'm coming out with between 250 to 300K in loans, and that's also including undergrad. So undergrad and optometry school. I will say maybe mine's a little bit more because a lot of my loans wasn't because of my tuition. I think because I went to a public institution, the tuition
Hmm.
was down, but the cost of living was high. And I also chose to live alone in my own studio. So I think my rent is just higher than others. And that was in loans for me personally. So now graduating, yes, I do have this stress of these loans are my loans. All of us on the pod, and I don't know about you, Ryan. I don't know what your background is, if you're first generation or if your family was here previously.
No, yeah, I mean, I'm not a first generation to the United States, and so I have a couple generations, but definitely grew up in where my parents had 4 kids, working class family. My dad worked his tail off. My mom worked her tail off to assist and put us through undergrad, which was very helpful. But nobody went past, at least into optometry. So I kind of paved my own way on that front. But keep going. Please tell me more.
Yeah, so I think you completely probably understand with us being first generation, and then paving your way. You don't realize how much debt you'll be in. At least for me, family is not able to say, "Oh, we have this money for you."
Mhm.
Here you go. Um, so yes, it is looking at the economy and everything. It is very scary. I think I'll probably live a very non-traditional optometry career life just because I'm also considering moving and doing optometry in a different country one day. And what does that look like? I have no idea yet, but it's something that I am curious about because I think that I have the biggest blessing of being here and being in America and being able to study and then move on from undergrad to graduate school, have the doctor title. But I still think that the world is really big, and this opportunity and optometry can be applied to so many different countries. So, what happens with my student loans then? We'll see. I think I would have to pay them down to a certain amount to then be able to feel okay to then go to a different country. I'm also looking into a lot of student loan forgiveness, and I think that would work for me too because if I work at a community health clinic or any other area. I forgot what the assistance is. I should look into it again. But it's like you work there for 10 years and then you get like loans paid off. There's different things like that that can definitely help. But then I'm also talking to JD, of course, and working production and making work for me and being able to work the system, have tax benefits. I don't know. I think ultimately I'll be okay. I'm worried, but I'm not too worried because I think I have a really good support system. And if you're in the same boat as me, like money's a worry, but it's also not a worry because I know that with this degree, I can kind of take it anywhere.
Yeah, I agree. Doug, tell me a little bit about just the California world of balancing being a new grad and any stressors that you have on you.
Yeah, well, for me, I am one of those post-COVID students who didn't pass boards right after school, and so I've been kind of in this limbo world of studying but also working, trying to get to that next level and pushing through. So that's been like a pretty difficult thing because as you're away from school, it gets harder to study, and as you had these loans coming up, you think more about money and less about studying. So it's like a hard cycle that I've been through, and that along with just like personal things that have happened that I've just been pushing through. So it's been a lot, but it's also been like a blessing in terms of just being able to sit down and recalibrate. Before, when I was a fourth year, I was like so eager to look for a job and find a thing. Like I was going on interviews and getting flown places for interviews, and I was so excited and like eager to get to that level. But I had to really recalibrate that and reset my mindset to be like, okay, let's focus on one thing first. Let's get these boards taken care of, one board at a time. And so yeah, that's like the journey I've been on the past like year and a half or so for me.
And you got to keep pushing, man. I respect that, because I can only imagine, as you referenced, there comes a time where you're studying, and then bills start happening, and payments start happening, and that stress compounds. So just keep doing what you're doing, keep pushing forward. You will get through this. Eventually, you're going to get to the point where you feel super confident about these next steps, and just making sure you have that mental clarity is huge. Nadia, JD, what do y'all think about the stressors of just where we're at right now, new grads, fourth year students approaching that thought process of everything going on in the world and the financial strains?
Being a millennial, I think that we've been through quite a bit as it is. So I think we just don't think about it. I think that's why we look so young. We're trying not to stress, right? Actually, right now, my student loans are on deferment. So I haven't had to think about them for a minute. But every time somebody mentions them, I'm like, man, I probably should start paying that back, because I'm not getting any interest on them right now. So that would be a good idea. Um, in the last 2 years, I've made a good dent in them. I think I graduated with 500,000 ish, something in there. It was like 489. But it included my master's as well. So I did a 2-year master's and then the optometry. I mean, I've been blessed. My parents have helped me with it a little bit, but at first, I didn't have a mortgage and I was living at home. And so I was able to put like half my paycheck towards my loans, because most of it is all like interest at first. Like you're only really paying on the interest.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard because every time you're like, yeah, I paid that $1,000, and then it doesn't go down $1,000 because the next month there's another like $500 on top of that. So I think it's hard because we're going to have that debt forever. And there's people that are lucky enough, like my husband, who don't have any debt when they come out of school, but you just learn to balance it. I think that I'm not the best at it, but learning to budget is nice. It's hard, right? Because like, I think once you get out of school, you're like, oh, I want to do this and I want to save for that, and I want to buy a house and I want to get a car. And you have to really just live within your means, because all the loans will be coming eventually. Like soon they won't be in deferment. And now I have a mortgage and I have a husband and I have a whole thing that I have to pay. Just like watching that and making the extra payments. I think when I had the loans, I was paying it twice a month, because I would pay like whatever they wanted, and then I would pay it again on my second paycheck, because we got paid every 2 weeks. So just staying on top of it, and maybe having a financial planner or coordinator that can help you, right? I'm like a CPA that's like, hey, this is the amount we need to make. Like, what are your goals? Because, if you're happy with like just renting an apartment for a while and not buying a house, or if you're like, hey, that's not worth my investment, like it's nice to have that help, because we don't get a lot of that in school. I think like a lot of like that business part and like how to invest well and what to invest in. And again, with the conversation about, planning for retirement, your 401ks, like having somebody that helps you. And if you need help, to like reach out, because some of us are not good at budgeting. So yeah. JD, what about you?
Yeah, I would say the student loans is definitely on the top of mind, right? Like Nadia's touching on, those 5-10 years for right after you graduate, right? Someone's getting married, someone's having a kid, someone's buying a practice, someone's getting a car, right? So if you do the math on that, right? Like I got to pay $2,000, $3,000 a month for mortgage. I got to pay $2,000 for my student loan. I got to pay, $1,000 for a car every month, right? Like it adds up, and this is like, I feel like the 30s are like the compounding age, right? Like if you can invest now, if you can pay off your debt sooner, that's going to snowball when you're 40, 50, 60, right? So this is crucial, and this is something that I think everybody around me is definitely talking about. From a personal standpoint, I would say I definitely didn't take student loans seriously, especially in school. It was like, yeah, it's a future problem. This is a future JD problem. That's what I used to say. And I would spend, try to get through. But I didn't realize, like, when I spend $10 here, it could be worth $40 later on down the road, right? With interest compounding. And so I would say I'm fortunate. I was a COVID graduate, and so my loans were on pause. And fortunately, I was in a climate where interest, rates were very low. And so I was lucky to get like a 2.5% interest rate and lock that down. And so now it doesn't make sense for me to pay off my loan, fortunately. So I'm a lucky individual where, things were crazy down there, right? Like I know a lot of friends who got houses who were around the 2 or 3% mark either, which is just, not normal at all. So that was a very unique environment to be in. But regardless, friends who are still graduating like y'all or who still have loans, it should be at the top of mind, right? Because not only are you paying that 250,000 or 300,000, you got to think of it's 350,000 or 400,000 with all that interest that you're putting, and so you want to get rid of it as soon as possible, really. And so yeah, it's definitely on the top of mind, but something that's achievable. That's why we have certain salary ranges. I think it's just about like finding a role then or job or something that pays you enough to still live that like decent living. Like you can go somewhere rural or invest in a business or something so that you don't have to be stressed out. And I think there's ways to do it. It's just kind of what uncomfortable battle do you want to have? Do you want to have the comfortability of just having your student loan or taking an uncomfortable job or living in a different area that you didn't predict? That would be my thought process on it.
When I hear all of you guys talk about just the financial aspect of the profession, I think that it's really important to try to remain as present as possible. But Doug, when you're tackling these boards, remaining present on the steps to do so. Nadia, when you're tackling, starting at $500,000 give take of student loan debt, just making payment after payment, putting together these foundational goals and habits and strategies to just keep chipping away. Because I'll tell you what, everybody here and everybody within our profession that remains consistent, does the right things, and is resilient, especially through the good and bad times, you will have success. You will have success. You will continue to pay things down. I'll just let you guys know, I graduated in 2012. I originally started on a pay-as-you-earn student loan repayment plan. But then I reached a point where I was running the numbers and I said, I got to start just paying this off. I have a feeling that this is going to make more sense. And I've been fortunate. I was able to pay off my student loans in under 10 years. And, you start to hit momentum where all of a sudden you see, as Nadia referenced, you throw $1,000 or, even $5,000 at it, and it doesn't make a dent. But over time, if you can have some sacrifices in certain areas of your life and really get hungry with those goals, you'll knock these student loans down. You'll knock getting past boards, getting into the right position, buying a practice or starting your own practice. It's putting one foot in front of the other. It's making sure that you have your head on straight and you don't get distracted on things that are kind of around you. But because this is a podception, I'm going to popcorn over to Nadia and let her lead for a bit. I'm going to let her run the show.
So, and you own your own business, correct? Or no?
I do. I do.
We are so interested in private practice. So we wanted to talk to you about like, what steps did you take and like, how does it all begin? Because like myself, and I'm sure a lot of listeners, the next step for me is going to be owning my own place. So did you cold open? Did you buy a practice? Can you just talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So full transparency, mine is not fully private, right? So I have LensCrafters subleases in the state of North Carolina. The way that the structure is, it's a two-door state. So we operate like a private office. We sell contacts at 3 out of 4 of our offices just based on the structure of the sublease arrangement. It's different in every state. But yeah, the way that I view it, the first practice, I had the opportunity to partner with a business partner and pick up my first location. And then from there, we acquired a second and then 2 more. And it just, honestly, just like I had referenced, we didn't just jump into 4 locations at once. It wasn't hey, let's just scale right away. It was very intentional, learning the aspects of the business from hiring staff, training and developing them, getting credentialed with insurance, billing insurance, working through all the different layers of communication amongst communicating with patients, communicating with a retail partner, communicating with industry, communicating with the team that you're leading. It takes a lot of time and energy and effort, but it didn't happen overnight, right? So my biggest recommendation for everybody listening, everybody that's just chatting it up here, is do your homework on the front end. Start researching what's out on the internet, artificial intelligence, the forums, all the mentors that you can kind of lean into and tap into, and start asking questions. And then from there, identify where do you want to be, right? So if you want to be in a certain area in California or Florida, or pick your favorite state in the United States, start researching what's available there. Could I open cold, you absolutely can. There's great groups out there that can help assist you with that. Do I want to pick up a sublease to start and learn some of the ropes and maybe open cold on the side? There are some sublease setups that will allow you to do that. Do I want to buy out an existing practice and take out another loan for that? Well, it depends on your financial situation, what the bank will allow you to do. So you're going to have some capital in the bank to prove to them and to be able to secure that loan. So it's really, honestly, Nadia, a pretty open-ended book, right? You're going to write your own story. It's kind of a choose your own adventure, though. What do you want? And everybody listening has different goals, different visions, different, really, honestly, a different journey in mind, right? A different dream. What are you guys dreaming about? Doug, what do you want long-term? What are you thinking?
Well, I'll answer your question, but I wanted to ask you a question first.
Sure.
Because this is a depth perception podcast, we like to go deep. We like to go
Yeah.
in depth. And so I want to ask, what made you decide to go the sublease route? You know, you mentioned all these different ways that it's possible to have your own practice. Why did you do what you did in terms of picking lens crafters?
Yeah, it actually wasn't me picking lens crafters. It was more an opportunity that had opened up. So I had graduated from optometry school, finished up residency, and came to North Carolina. Was working at two great practices, and was very transparent. Hey, I want to buy into a practice. That was kind of my thought process. And then I started to lean into one practice. I left the other one and was working full time at one practice. There was two owners. I'd have been the third owner. And then I got a call from my past business partner, and essentially they were like, hey, there's a lens crafter sublease opening up, has 30 years of essentially goodwill in the community, and the doctor's not selling it. They're just walking away from the lease. So in school, nobody really talked about sublease optometry. It was private practice. It was corporate optometry. It was ODMD, community health centers. This modality to me was foreign. And full transparency at the time, Doug, I was not excited about partnering with a corporation that I didn't exactly hear always the most positive things in school. Like, hey, corporate optometry is evil. A lot of times is what you would hear. Well, the reality is it's one of the greatest marketing tools you can have if you do it the right way, because they drive patients into your clinic, and then you position yourself and run the business adjacent to them, depending on your state or within. And you have to work through some contractual details, but guess what? Everybody's got to work through contractual details. If you're at a strip mall, you're going to have certain things that you're going to have to work through. Or if you're taking insurance, you're going to have certain red tape you're going to have to work through. We all have to work through contractual details. And so for me, it was an opportunity to low risk too, right? So to become a partner in a sublease setup 7 days a week and learn about it. And then once I started to understand how that aspect of optometry worked, we were able to scale into a second location. And then we picked up two more about 2 hours away from those original locations. And it kind of just snowballed and grew from there. But once you really get specific, or you go in depth about a certain about a certain setting, right? A little depth perception here, right?
Yeah.
Podception.
Right? Podception. But once you get really, really specific about these things, really intentional, you learn how to operate a practice in that kind of space.
It's awesome. Okay, I'll answer your question now. So my goal in my career would be to have my own practice, and it be like sports vision focused, also doing primary practice. But yeah, my overarching goal would be to work with like professional sports teams, specifically the NBA and NBA players, but also college and high schools as well. But I also want to do that. And then I also want to incorporate gamers. And so I want to have like a new age type of clinic where it is, sports vision, primary practice, where we look at disease, and like gaming and like sports vision training and things like that as well.
Okay. You got a lot of specialties built in there. I like that. I like to see it.
Sure.
We're actually going to throw it to Svet, I think, because I think
So
she
let's
has
go.
some questions for you.
I had a question because learning more about you and your different practices. We talked about you have 2 children, podcaster, and you're podcasting once a week or bringing out the content weekly. how do you balance maybe your career and your career goals with family? Because I think that's something that I'm always thinking about. Oh, how would I balance that? So what does that look like for you?
I'm gonna pause the pod and go downstairs and get my wife, who I was having a glass of wine with before we hit record at 9:30 Eastern Standard. No, the truth of the matter is being very intentional. We have built a crazy busy life together. So, my wife is full-time stay-at-home, and she is really honestly the reason I can do what I do. She is very hands-on. I'll take the kids to school, and if I'm in clinic that day, I can't pick them up, but I can drop them off. So she'll pick them up. A lot of days she's dropping them off, picking them up, and she's full domestic engineer on that angle. So she's running on all cylinders. So because she's taking care of the at-home front, it gives me the ability to take care of the business and then also do other entrepreneurial things like consult and speak and do the podcast. That being said, if I didn't do anything at home, I wouldn't have a marriage. So I'm a huge advocate of being as organized as possible. At times, I'm a little bit meticulous about it, but I've built my own systems, and I've found that there are certain things that you can delegate to people you trust. So in my practice, I have people that I delegate responsibilities to. And then, of course, I have to have oversight, but learning who you can trust, how you can delegate to them accordingly, and how you can grow personally and professionally through these habits and through these systems is how I essentially do it. It all starts with finding the right person. So, I love my wife. We've been married for 9 years. I'm going to celebrate 10 years next year. Two little nuggets, 7 and 5 years old. They run my world. And once you find the right person and you work together with them to build out your vision of life, it all kind of comes together. But there's sacrifice too. There really is. My wife and I had a conversation before we got married where her goal was, listen, I want to be able to be there for my kids during certain ages and then be able to jump back into the workforce later on. Tell me about your goals. And so we had a lot of upfront communication about what we wanted.
Thank you for sharing. I feel like that's really important. And I think what the last thing that you just said, like talking about expectations almost, and what you guys both want to have a happy marriage, happy life together. I think that's something that we can all take with us. I want to know how you and your wife met. And then after that question, I'll give it to JD.
All right. I'll give you a multiple choice question because you're still in school. You got 1 week left. Did I meet my wife, A, during optometry school, B, at a bar, C, through a swipe app, or D, a family friend?
Do I get any hints? Like any other background information about your wife? Like I need
So
a
I'm from
little bit.
Michigan.
No hits, right? No
I'm from
hits.
Michigan. My wife is from Northern California.
Oh, okay. Michigan, Northern Cali- At a bar.
No.
Okay. I want to say on a swipe app then.
Swipe right, 100%. So I moved to Charlotte after after residency, and built a good network of friends, and the only game in town was Tinder. Right, it was where people were starting to get on Tinder and actually meet others that they cared about, and it was kind of in that weird phase before Hinge, before Bumble, before all the other apps. And I had a couple buddies who were like, "Yeah, we met these girls through Tinder," and like they started dating them. I'm like, "I'm not doing that." I'm like, "No, I'm not doing that." And then a couple months went by, and it didn't work out with a girl I was seeing for a month or two. And I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And so sure enough, yeah, I would have never met my wife. She was living in another area of Charlotte that I never went to. We would have never crossed paths. So it was true luck. I mean, I'm a man of faith. I think it was God's divine intervention. Yep, met her through Tinder. So kind of crazy. Anybody else here married? So Nadia's married, right? Heck yeah, there you go, girl. That's right. I've seen the pictures.
Yeah, there's more to come. I like to post them once a week.
There we go.
Yeah, just got married in September. The pod was there, so I'm grateful that they came through. So it's been a journey. I did not meet on a swipe app, but maybe the next marriage.
Which of those 4 choices were you, Nadia?
Me, you guys know.
I know.
We met in school.
It was
Yeah.
A.
Yeah.
There you go.
I'll let JD take it away.
I mean, I can't believe it's already been 47 minutes. It just like flew by. I can't believe it's, I can only imagine it's like about to be 10:30 p.m. for you and the East Coast. So we appreciate being able to do this. There's so many questions, right? Like, finances or things that we should look for when you get ahead. I mean, the true essence what I'd love to learn is like we just did a pod about the butterfly effect. So let's kind of tie them into some of our past pods. Like a moment or moments that like defined and change the course of your own personal history. And I'd love to hear some moments that were important to you in your past 13 years or even before that changed your course of your career and how it ties into your identity and where you want it to go after that.
Sure. Yeah, I went to undergrad at Michigan State, and I think that I kind of just coasted through undergrad. And I would say the culture there was just unique and different. Where anybody coming out of undergrad, you kind of feel like your stuff doesn't stink, right? You're just like, yeah, I'm good. You're getting optometry school, and I heard you guys saying, what are some expectations for optometry school? You maybe didn't have certain expectations. Well, I remember coming out, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna run for our class president. Why not? Like, let's do this. And I didn't have a campaign. I didn't put together a speech. I didn't do a doggone thing. In my head, I was just thinking, we had to talk in front of the class and give kind of a pitch, a quick speech. And a good friend of mine, Lindsay Diefenbacher, who went to Ohio State, that's where I went to optometry school for undergrad. You could hear her through the door. Like she was literally, I mean, I think I had goosebumps just hearing how well she was sharing why she should be the president of our optometry class. And I was right after her, and I'm like, I don't even know what I'm doing here. I stood up there, I gave a little quick song and dance, and there was a few others. Long story short, I got my butt kicked. I did not win. And so I remember leaving that situation being like, I am never going to put myself in a scenario where if I run for something, I'm not prepared. Well, let's fast forward. I ended up running for the trustee elect for the AOSA. And I was on AOSA trustee elect and then trustee. And then I had the opportunity to run for AOSA executive council. And so I was talking to some people on the board and I ended up running for president. And I spent time really being intentional and memorizing my speech and even delivering it in front of others and getting feedback. And I came out and it was a contested, I had somebody else running against me and he's a great guy. He probably should have won, right? Because, he just had more experience in the world of optometry. I was a little more naive, but I felt like that preparation and the fact that I got my absolute butt kicked when I was running as class president gave me the experience to build off of. And when I was able to go in, I ended up being elected president of AOSA and the executive council. And that really was a huge pivotal point for me. It opened up a lot for me in kind of a peek behind the curtains in optometry, the legislative aspect, how much industry and just so much that goes into the behind the scenes of which is better, one or two, and what really powers our profession. And so I'll never forget that experience and then how it kind of catapulted me from my desire to be involved and to leave a good footprint on our profession as I've been out now practicing for 10 plus years.
That's quite a moment because I think it could have gone the other way, right? Like I thought at first you were going to say, "Oh, I'm never going to run for anything ever again," and I was like, "Oh man, no, Ryan, no, come on, keep potting, man, you got this." And then you completely shifted that 360 in a great way, right? Like, not everybody. I think at least 95%, 90% would reacted negatively. Like you came out of it so well. So I mean, thanks for sharing that moment. I think that was great.
I think I'm gonna try to wrap things up so that you can get to your kids and we can get to dinner, I guess.
Let's do it.
So, we're doing Podception, so it's really important to bring up the fact that we're two different pods combined. That's why it's the Podception episode. We want to hear a little bit about what you thought was important about starting a podcast for the industry, and we'll kind of share our take too. And that way, both listeners of both podcasts can know what the podcasts are about. Because yours is relatively new, but I've had a lot of listens and you've had some great guests. And I think that it's important for us as an industry to share why we're doing what we're doing, because a lot of times it's just for our passion for the profession. So I wanted you to just come and take that away, Ryan.
Yeah, Nadia, thank you for asking. I've always been into developing content and getting the positive word out there about our profession. Of course, there's challenges. There's 100% challenges in optometry, but guess what? There's 100% challenges in any individual profession if you ask enough questions and if you dive deep enough and really learn about the ins and the outs. There's pros and cons to every profession, but I believe that we have an incredible profession that is going to continue to skyrocket for years to come. We just need to get the right people on the bus. And so the reason that I started the podcast is I wanted to share my own experience over time, but also interview others and learn more about their experiences, and then dive into some of the details. So whether their experiences that they are the guru of practice management, or maybe they are somebody who's taken myopia management to another level, or they are really experts at the treatment and management of ocular surface disease or glaucoma, or they have a story to share about how they, you guys all referenced that you guys all came to the United States and you're the first of your generation to go and become optometrists or even go to college in the United States. That's incredible. And I think that there are so many stories to share within our profession that are glass half full story, right? Not a glass half empty. And JD, you reference, I could have just curled up and been like, I'm never doing this again. But I believe that if we motivate each other and we're there to support each other and we're there to mentor and encourage each other, that we can only raise this profession up. So that's why I started the podcast. Not to mention technology's made it a lot easier to podcast. And I think that I give a lot of credit to the OGs like, Daryl and Harbeer and the people that started it when they had to really spend a ton of time to edit this stuff. And I didn't have the bandwidth for that. So kudos to them. But that's kind of my story on why I launched one in 2025. Let's hear a little bit about the depth perception. This is this season 3? Is that my understanding?
That is correct. Yeah, I think Doug's going to take this one.
Yes, it is season 3. And, the Depth Perception podcast, we go in depth about the perception and misconceptions of optometry. We wanted to be, like advocates for the young ODs, the new grads, the people getting into optometry school, the people in pre-optometry. We want to just give that light because we had to pave our own way to get in without knowing the process and what it would look like or what school was like. So we just kind of want to give the things that they didn't teach us in school, and we want to just shed light on things like that. So we talk about everything, which include like the business of optometry, social issues, and life as an optometry student, which we had a podcast about dating in optometry. We had a podcast about networking. We had a podcast about the perception of colors of scrubs that you wear. So we talk about a little bit of everything just to give light to young ODs, but also just a new perspective to old ODs too. So it's not just for young, but we just want to, have our young mindset be known to everybody.
Yeah, don't leave the cane utilizing ODs like myself, the one who's got to use my walker to get around. Don't leave us out of the conversation. Come on now, we gotta collaborate. We gotta bring the generations together. I like that.
Absolutely.
Here we are.
How long can we say we're young ODs for, Ryan? How many more years we got?
Yeah,
dude, I pushed hard for 10. I'm out longer than that now. So unfortunately, I think you can pull off. The 5 is where people really look at you as you're young. Once you hit 10, they're like, you're pushing it, man. And then,
well, we got a young one. We got 5 more years after Svet. So, I think we.
Yeah, I don't know why. I was like 2. And I was like, all you guys are old now.
There you go. You're as young as you feel, right? That's what I tell everybody. All my patients, they sit in the chair, they're 65. I say, how do you feel? I feel great. Good. You're as young as you feel. All right. That's the truth. So, all right, y'all, let's call it a wrap. I'm going to let you guys get some grub. I'm going to put my head down, but stay tuned for our next pod, whether it's the Depths Reception, whether it's Ryan Reflects. We appreciate everybody listening. Make sure you subscribe and share this out. And everybody, we're signing off for the day. Take care.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to the Depth Perception podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe on all of our platforms, including
Spotify,
Instagram,
Google Podcasts,
Apple Podcast.
YouTube. Make sure you click that button. Double tap that.
So you guys have no reason not to follow us and tune in to the next episode.
Stop wasting time.
Get in depth.
Subscribe.